E ngā mana, e ngā reo, e ngā kārangatanga maha o ngā hau e whā, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Stockhell tōku maunga, ko Uz tōku awa. Ko Ngāti Ingarangi me Ngāti Kōtarani o ku iwi. No Ingarangi ahau, engari ko Aotearoa tōku kāinga e nai nei. He kaitiaki puka puka hau ki te pātaka māramatanga. Ko Kathryn tōku ingoa. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora everyone, stoked to be here to have the opportunity to talk to you today. Thanks to all the other speakers in this session, that's been really beautiful kōrero so far. So I'm just going to give you a very, very brief introduction to my PhD research. So I've been working for sort of the last 3 weeks, had to whittle it down to 10 minutes, whittle it down to 10 minutes, whittle it down. So I'll try not to go over. I may go under, because I talk fast when I get a bit nervous. So, but anyway, what I'm going to talk today is just an introduction of what I did and some highlights from my findings, and also just a little bit about the end about how I'm applying my learnings to my life and my mahi in Te Wānanga Aotearoa. So my main research question was, how are non-Māori librarians in Aotearoa, New Zealand, making sense of Mātauranga Māori? And I could tell you a whole load about the research methodology behind that, but basically I asked people about their stories of learning and engagement. And so I did 25 interviews with non-Māori librarians from across the motu, different types of libraries, so some public libraries, some tertiary libraries, some other specialised libraries, and some had a few years' experience, some had decades of experience, so it was a very diverse group, but the majority did identify as New Zealand European. Alongside this, I also did 3 focus groups with Māori librarians as well. And so that was just to round out the picture of what was happening, because my interviewees, they were all volunteers. And so the majority of them, they had engaged, they had positive experiences to talk about. And of course, we know that the situation's not necessarily like that across the board. And so I wanted to hear from Māori librarians about their experiences with their non-Māori colleagues as well. So I was supervised by Professor Anne Goulding and Associate Professor Spencer Lilly at the Haringa Waka. And there were loads of really interesting findings, but the ones that I want to pull out for you today are, it will probably be a surprise to no one in this room that Te Reo Māori was a really big part of a lot of these people's journeys of engaging with Māori knowledge, and that what they learned through learning Te Reo Māori was more than just grammar and vocab. It was sort of a gateway into learning more about the culture more broadly. So an interesting finding in terms of the contrast between the interviews and the focus groups was around fear and discomfort. So a lot of the interviewees, they spoke about fear in engaging with Māori knowledge, either for themselves or for other non-Māori that they had interacted with. And that could even involve opting out of basic mahi involving Māori clients, for example, or Māori, just a basic question at the reference desk that anyone could have a go at answering, but they were so there might be such fear that the immediate response was, "Where's the Māori librarian? I need help from the Māori librarian." And that was something that the focus groups talked a lot about, having to pick up the slack from their non-Māori colleagues who were basically opting out of these really basic tasks. And that was a problem, because then the Māori librarians were becoming overworked and burnt out. and some of them were even leaving the profession. And so I argued that that was an ethical issue. If one group of librarians is picking up the slack for another group of librarians who aren't really doing their job properly, ultimately, then that's an ethical issue. And so that's something that I've, I guess, laid down from my profession. And the final highlight that I'm going to talk about is persevering. So the model I used to look at this question was about bridging a gap in knowledge, bridging a gap and being stopped in the road and having to find some way to bridge your knowledge gap or information gap. And that was just the theoretical framework I was looking at, but it didn't actually work that well because, as I talked about in the previous point, it was just as easy to go around, take a detour around the side of the gap rather than actually bridging it. So a lot of these non-Māori librarians are not operating in an environment where they are expected to engage, or they're expected to, or there's a sort of like external impetus to engage. And so thus it's really important to be able to persevere and to make the commitment to doing that, and to acknowledge that I could carry on engaging for a little while and then stop, and it wouldn't impact me as much as it would impact my Māori colleagues. And again, sort of recognising that it's part of being a good ally is to keep going and keep engaging and keep learning. And just finally, I wanted to talk a bit about living out my learnings. So I've been very, very blessed to have landed up in Aotearoa, Aotearoa, and I've learnt that really there's so much to know, there's so much to learn, and so what I've been trying to do is make the most of every opportunity. If you'd asked me a few years ago about if I could see myself taking part in a kapa haka event, for example, the answer probably would have been no, but that's what I did last year, and I loved it, and it was amazing. I felt so welcomed and a part of things, and it was beautiful. And another really interesting part of my journey, and this sort of began before I started working here at the Aotearoa, was my journey with Te Reo Māori. So I've always loved languages, and I've been really interested in Te Reo Māori since I moved to Aotearoa in 2010. But for whatever reason, I'd done a little short course here, learned to wire to there, but I'd never really sort of got my head down and done a proper course. And so I had some understanding, but I couldn't really speak for myself. But then it became very apparent, not very long into my interviews, that actually Te Reo Māori is a really big part of engagement, and it's really something that I want to recommend to other people. And how can I recommend it to other people if I'm not walking the talk? And so I wasn't able to sign up for a course straight away because I was busy with the PhD and various other commitments. But I was able to just start learning every day, watching a language learning program, half an hour on Māori television. And that really sort of sped up my journey. It's kind of boosted my journey until the point where I was able to sign up for a class. And after I'd finished he pikarere, then I had the opportunity to come and work in the library, and there are some awesome librarians who are tino kaha ki te kōrero Māori. And so I've been very, very, very fortunate to have those opportunities to kōrero and to learn that confidence and to expand my ability in that area as well. So, ko mutu taku kōrero e nai nei. Got time for some pātai, I think. Yeah. And just thanks to Te Manawa Haukura for inviting me today, and also your support for my ongoing aspirations to disseminate my research, and also mihi tū te pātaka māramatanga and all those who helped me in my PhD journey. Kia ora.